baby's biological sex could predict their personality or interests or life trajectory seems so overly deterministic, even un-American, so fundamentally out of kilter with the "you can be anything you want to be" guiding story of American self-belief. Anyway, surely no girl could be more different from them than my two boys were from each other. 7-year-old Solly, intense and sensitive, lover of obscure marine animals and drawing, and 4-year-old Zeffie, big-hearted and rambunctious, whose two guiding passions were intricate bead art and karate chopping the sofa. Each of them had a mix of traits and interests, boyish, girlish, and neither. We were raising them, or so I believed, in a liberal, gender-neutral environment. Gender didn't matter. But that was a while ago, before Trump and Weinstein, before incels and masculinity influencers and men's rights activists and white men waving tiki torches dominated the news. Now, that post-gender idealism was starting to feel like an artifact of an entirely different moral universe. Whatever unknowable mix of essential nature and socialization this all came down to, it was getting harder and harder to maintain the belief that men and women were fundamentally the same, and that raising a boy in this world was the same basic task as raising a girl. Now, the horrors in my news app mingled in my brain with the angsty neurochemicals of pregnancy, and for the first time, I was truly scared to be a mother of boys. Everywhere I turned, there were bad men. I was frightened both for and of the tiny piece of patriarchy growing inside me, worried sick over what he and his brothers might become, the potential for darkness that I might be powerless to stop. Patriarchy is the system in which men hold the bulk of power, politically, economically, socially, and culturally, and male concerns are centred while others are marginalised. It is the norm in almost every civilization on Earth, with only a small handful of exceptions. Simply by virtue of being born male, my sons would be part of this system and benefit from the unearned privilege it would bestow on them. No matter how much I wanted to, it wasn't possible to just opt out. At night, as I battled insomnia, heaving my bump around the bed from one achy compromise to another, my pregnant brain churned out a ticker tape of bad outcomes for my unborn boy. Rapist, school shooter, incel, man-child, interrupter, mansplainer, boob-starer, birthday forgetter, frat boy, dude bro, homophobe, self-important stoner, emotional labour abstainer, non-wiper of kitchen counters. Trying to raise good sons suddenly felt like a hopeless task. What I didn't know, as I lay there huge and bleak and defeated, was that within just a few days, I was about to witness one of the most momentous turning points in gender politics in recent history. Just 10 days after the New York Times published its exposé of Weinstein, the Me Too movement would explode and gender relations as we knew them would be upended. Although the basic structures of patriarchy would remain intact, the final weeks of my pregnancy would see a tectonic shift in the terms of the conversation, a fundamental rewriting of who got to speak and who had to shut up and listen. This, in turn, would spur a cycle of enraged backlash and digging in. For years to come, we would be slugging it out, rethinking gender norms and power structures from the ground up. For good and for bad, my third son would be born into a very different world than the one his older brothers had entered just a few years earlier. As a feminist, this moment in history would be one of the most clarifying, exhilarating times of my life. But as a mother of boys, it would twist my stomach into a knot of fear and hypocrisy, a tangle of competing envies and hopes and contradictions that would take a long time to fully unravel. I watched Me Too unfold live from the spare room of our house, a claustrophobic, jerry-rigged extension with knotted pine walls the colour of Donald Trump's face. Neil, my husband, had banished me from our shared bedroom, struggling to cope with my pregnancy insomnia and apocalyptic conversation. I was lying on the bed, scrolling through Twitter on my phone and glugging Pepto-Bismol from the bottle, when I noticed that the hashtag was trending. The tweets were in response to a plea from actress Alyssa Milano, herself a survivor.